Greetings. I'm delighted to see so many of you here to experience Downstairs at Ker Place. Coming into this beautiful mansion, it's hard to imagine how much activity may have taken place down here. I've been asked a couple of questions about the structure itself, and one was quite interesting. She just mentioned the whitewashing, and Ms. McGarity asked me, was the house raised at one time? And I said, well, I'm not sure, but going by the newness of the beams, my father was a contractor, going by the newness of the beams and the fact that if you look above the level of the whitewash, it is not painted, I would assume that the building was raised at some point in time. So there's so much hidden history here. And when you say 1700s, we're talking not the 1800s, not the 1900s. We're talking, and so it's amazing that we can all be here together tonight. It's my pleasure to have been able to ask dear friends, and they're all dear friends except my husband. He's I have to tell you, there's no one speaking tonight that I've known less than 20 years. Wow. I don't think less than 20. When did we start? 19. Okay, stop there. Some as long as 47 years. Some of us had the same babysitter. It's special tonight. Initially, my thought was to have some of my former students present these narratives to you. And they are narratives. It's not meant to be necessarily entertaining. These are the actual words of the slaves as gathered by the people that worked with the Federal Writers Project. The government put to work several editors. Those editors hired other people who fanned out to interview people of all walks of life. There were miners that were interviewed from the coal mines. There were Dust Bowl survivors that were interviewed. And there are 2,300 narratives of African Americans or Africans or former slaves that you can pour through. They've been digitized now. Back when one of my forensic students did it, you had to look at the actual typewritten page as it was translated. And you'll see some that are quite eloquent. You'll see some that are very harsh, very rough, depending upon the eloquence of the person that interviewed them. There were some writers that were out of work. There were some people that were merely students. There were some people that were put to work in more rustic areas that were almost as crude or poor as the slaves that were put to work in the Federal Writers Project to gather the history, some of which you'll hear tonight. And of the 2,300, we've chosen just about 7 because we wanted a mandate by Ms. Shields and the Virginia Foundation to find as many from Virginia as we could. So, not meant to entertain tonight, but to edutain. I want to give you a little background just so that you'll know to whom you're listening. I don't know a lot of information about the people that we hear from tonight, but you have to have a backstory. All you actors in here know. An actor wants to know, what's my motivation? Well, we're interpreting tonight. An actor plays one character in makeup, with a background and scenery and everything. An interpreter, however, suggests the presence of the person they're speaking for. And so that's how it's kind of different tonight. Now, I don't know whether I gave someone my sheet, and I'm looking for it, but Raya, whom you just saw, was a slave. She was in her 90s. The former slaves ranged in age from their late 70s to their early hundreds. So some experienced much more of servitude, a longer life of servitude than others. There's one with blue ink on it. Some lived more of a life of servitude than others. Then after Raya, you're going to hear from Thomas Hall. Thomas Hall, I believe, was inspired by the abolitionist creations and the abolitionist speakings of Frederick Douglass and others who were very much against slavery. So you'll hear from Thomas Hall. You also hear from Fanny Canaday, who is just old enough to remember a horrific time in her life, and she'll recount her memory. You'll also hear from Alfred Sly. And he's kind of sly, I think a little bit like his name. But Alfred has traveled, and he's fallen in love, and he's made it. He's made it. You'll also hear from Liza. Liza has traveled. There were some some plantations that were almost nomadic in trying to escape the horrors of the war. So they would take their property, including their slaves, from one place to another for relative safety. As you heard Raya talk about how they pillaged both the South and the North when they would come through. So there were some that were almost nomadic. And then you'll hear from Boston Blackwell, who escaped at a relatively young age, and he served as a Union soldier, and let's see, Mr. Sly might have served as a Confederate soldier. We might hear a little bit about that. So those are a few people you'll be hearing from. We have them kind of interspersed through the room. A couple will speak from here. So I haven't much more to say. I would like to ask Mr. Thomas Hall if he would come up. Mr. Hall was 81 when he was interviewed. Mr. Hall?
Oh my God.
My name is Thomas Hall, and I was born in Orange County, North Carolina, on a plantation belonging to Jim Woods, whose wife, our missus, was named Polly. I am 81 years of age, as I was born February the 14th, 1856. My father, Daniel Hall, and my mother, Becky Hall, and me all belonged to the same man. But it was not often the case that this was not true as one man. Perhaps a Johnson would own a husband, and a Smith would own the wife, each slave going by the name of the slave owner's family. In such case, the children went by the name of the family to which the mother belonged. Getting married and having a family was a joke in the days of slavery, as the main thing in allowing any form of matrimony among the slaves was to raise more slaves in the same sense and for the same purpose as stock raisers raise horses and mules, that is, for work. A woman who could produce fast was in great demand and brought a good price on the auction block in Richmond, Virginia, Charleston, South Carolina, and other places. The food, in many cases, that was given to the slaves was given them not for their pleasure or by a cheerful giver, but for the simple and practical reason that children would not grow into a large, healthy slave unless they were well fed and clothed and given good warm places in which to live. Conditions and rules were bad, the punishment was severe and barbarous. Some masters acted like savages. In some instances, slaves were burned at the stake. Families were torn apart by selling. Mothers were sold from their children. Children were sold from their mothers, and the father was not considered in any way as a family part. These conditions here before the Civil War and the conditions in a changed sense have been here ever since. The whites have always held the slaves in part slavery and are still practicing the same things on them in a different manner. Whites lynch, burn, and persecute the Negro race in America yet. And there is little they are doing to help them in any way. Lincoln got the praise for freeing us, but did he do it? He give us freedom without giving us any chance to live to ourselves, and we still had to depend on the Southern white man for work, food, and clothing, and he held us through our necessity and want in a state of servitude, but little better than slavery. Lincoln done but little for the Negro race, and from living standpoint, nothing. White folks are not gonna do anything for Negroes except keep them down.
I don't remember much about the soldiers and the fighting and the war, because I wasn't much more than 6 years old at the surrender, but I do remember how Master Jordan Moss shot Leonard Allen. That was one of his slaves. I ain't never forgot that. My mammy and pappy, Silo and Fannie Moss, belonged to Master Jordan and Miss Sally Moss. Jordan and Miss Sally Moss. They had about 300 niggas, and most of them worked in the cotton fields. Master Jordan, he was hard. He was hard on his niggas. He worked them overtime and didn't give them enough to eat. They didn't have no clothes neither. The children, they ain't had no shoes at all. They went barefooted in the snow, same as 'twas the summertime. I never had no shoes on my feet till I was 10 years old. And that was when the Yankees come. I was scared of Master Jordan. And all the grown niggas was scared of him too, except then Leonard and Burris Allen. Them niggas wasn't scared of nothing. If the devil himself had come and shook a stick at them, they'd have hit him back. Leonard was a big, black, buck nigga. He was the biggest I ever seen, and Burris was never about as big. And they despised Master Jordan. They despised him worse than despised him. I was sort of scared of Miss Polly. When Master Jordan wasn't around, she was sweet and kind. But when he was around, when Master Jordan was around, she was a yes sir kind of man. Everything he told her to do, she done. He made her slap my mammy once. He made her slap my mammy because when she passed him his coffee, she spilled some in the sauce. Miss Sally, she hit Mammy easy. But Master Jordan, he say, hit her, Sally. Hit that black bitch like she deserved to be hit. Then Miss Sally draw back and hit Mammy in the face. Pop! Then she went back to her place at the table and play like she eating breakfast. When Master Jordan leave, she come in the kitchen and put her arms round Mammy and cry, and Mammy pat her on the back and she cried too.
Say he gon' wear everyone out on the bed. When he gone to eat breakfast, I runs to my cabin, tells my sister, I said, leaving this place here for good. She cried and said, overseer man, he kill you. I said, he killed me anyhow. A young boy what cut them whips, he named Jerry. He come along with me, and we wade the stream for a long piece. say where the stream. Dog can smell you. Heard them hounds are hollering, getting ready for a chase after us. We hide in dark woods. It was cold, frosty weather. 2 days and 2 nights we traveled. That boy, he's so cold and hungry, he want to fall our way. But I drugs him on. We gets to the Yankee camp, all our troubles is over. See, we gets to all the contraband we could eat.
Now, were there other Negroes there?
Oh, Lord, yes, hundreds, I reckon. They made me a driver of the team in a quartermaster's department. I was always careful to do everything they tell me. When the battle come, the captain carried me down to the battleground, and I stayed there till fighting was over. I was a soldier that day.
Were you, frightened? Had to be frightened.
Oh, no. I didn't shoot no gun, nor no cannon. I carried water from the river to put out the fire on the cotton bales, what made the breeze was. I don't know what the breeze was, but made the breeze was. Anyway, every time the Confederates would shoot the cotton, it come on fire. So I carried water to put out the fire. After the battle, they transferred me back quartermaster for a driver. Captain Doddridge was his name. I was sworn in for doing the war. And say, I, Boston Blackwell, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So help me God.
Did you like being in the war, Mr. Blackwell?
Oh, yes. It was pretty good. If you obey them Yankees officers, they treated you pretty good. But if you didn't, they sure went rough on you.
How was life after the war, Mr. Blackwell?
Well, first thing, I worked on the railroad. They was just beginning to come here. I digged the pits out, going along where the tracks was to go. I get $1 a day. Lady, I was the richest man in the world. I get along good, too. I boarded with a wife family. Always I was watching for my slave pension to begin coming. Before I left the army, my captain tell me to file. My file number is 1115857. That old story about 40 acres and a mule, it make me laugh. Yes, they sure did tell us that. But I never know any person which got it. The officers tell me, we would all get a slave pension and a parcel of ground to farm. That's just exactly what they tell. They sure did tell me. Nothing ever hatched out of that, neither. After I kept in them papers for so many years, white and black folks both tell me ain't never gonna come my slave pension. I reckon my children tore up them papers. Lady, that number for me is filed in Washington, D.C. Even you go there, say, can you get my pension? Can you do that for me?
Well, I wish I could be like